Eden and I exited the party and took a right onto the pathway immediately outside the house. We traipsed downhill. Once in the dirt ravine, I turned to him. Eden was my height, with a square jaw and chiseled facial features. He had a robust smile, a robust laugh, robust eyes. I stepped up onto Fire Island Boulevard, the primary boardwalk. I knew most of the community was to our right. I led him to the left. We passed the turnoff for Topeka's cottage. We made it to the edge of civilization. We pushed through into the woods of the meat rack. This had been my fantasy since I'd been 18. I'd only seen it secondhand. It had been mythical, out of reach. And now it all seemed too good, too hot, too ripe to be true. I didn't have faith that we would find what we were looking for. I doubted that my fantasy could become my reality. But it all felt too magical to abandon. For the next several minutes, Eden and I searched diligently, closely appraising a handful of various nooks in our quest to find the most secluded spot in the meat rack. He seemed to share my abhorrence for being spied on or interrupted. In what seemed like the middle of the woods, we found a snug encampment located behind a bank of sand. It was tucked in the midst of a thicket of brush, dense, low-hanging trees spread out around us. Small banks of sand and earth, perhaps 3 or 4 feet high, surrounded us in this divot. We had successfully found a partial hideaway from the rest of the world. We climbed into our trench and leaned back against its little hill. He was strong. He didn't try to use his power to maul or compete with me. "I think you're really sexy," he smiled as we pulled each other into a minutes-long French kiss. After a while, we climbed out of our nest. The sky was cloudy again. I pointed at the crest of the largest sand hill on the horizon. The ocean! We lumbered through the dense banks of rolling sand with all the speed and assurance of toddlers. We approached the top of the hill. It's probably obvious to anyone who will see us from the beach that we just did what we just did, I declared with a combination of triumph and trepidation. "So what?" He laughed. We made it to the top of the dune. We surveyed the roar and crash of the ocean onto the beach below us. We then launched our bodies forward, tumbling down the steep mountain of sand like only athletic young people can. I yelled with glee as we flew precariously. When the slope softened, I kept jogging forward, propelled by my emotional and physical momentum. We were at the edge of the ocean 15 seconds later. We slowed as the water lapped our ankles. We turned left and began walking back towards the pines. "You want to go in?" His voice was deep. I held up my hand. He grinned. We ran together into the water. We got separated by the waves. We paddled toward each other, and when we got close, he reached out and wrapped his right arm around my lower back, pulling me into him. Another wave approached, threatening to separate us, making good on its promise. I could hear him laughing above the surf. I swam back to him. We moved a yard or two closer to the shore. He smiled, snaking his arm once again around the small of my back. With his other hand, he caressed my face. I wiped my nose, suddenly self-conscious after my tryst in the churn. You're totally good," he chuckled. "Am I?" "Yes, you are." There was great force lurking within his body. It was undeniable. The way he handled me, though, was as a master craftsman would. I sighed in between kisses, renewing my own grip around his torso. I realized how indescribably wonderful it felt to be kissed roughly by a man I trusted. As we held each other, our bodies continued to be pounded by the waves. The connected bulk and weight of our union kept us from being pulled out by the water. I think I know what you'd like, he murmured as we moved even closer to shore, the water now lapping a few inches below our knees. He squatted down just a couple of inches, bear hugging me tightly around the waist. He stood up straight, lifting my feet a couple inches off the sandy carpet below us. He began twirling me through the water, at first slowly and then quickly, gaining momentum. At one moment, my entire body was out of the water. I laughed with the glee of a small child being twirled by their father.